The jungle in 2008 was a beast of its own, a sprawling, uncharted expanse in South America that swallowed light and sound beneath its dense canopy. The explorers, 5 in total, hacked their way through tangled vines and gnarled roots, their machetes glinting in the rare shafts of sunlight. Daniel, a wiry man with a scuffy beard and a penchant for dark humor, trailed at the back of the group. He'd been grumbling about his leg for hours, a dull soreness behind his left knee that he dismissed as fatigue. "This damn jungle's trying to kill me one step at a time," he muttered, swatting a mosquito and wiping sweat from his brow. The others, Clara, the botanist, Miguel, the guide, and the burly twins Tom and Leo, chuckled but pressed on, eager to catalog this untouched wilderness. By dusk, the group decided to make camp in a small clearing. The air was thick with humidity, and the chorus of unseen creatures buzzed around them. Daniel slumped against a fallen log, rubbing his calf. "It's not just sore anymore," he said, his voice tight. "It's prickly." Clara, ever the caretaker, knelt beside him, her flashlight illuminating the back of his knee. What she saw made her gasp, a swollen red lump, veiny and pulsing faintly under his skin. "That's no sprain," she said, her eyes wide. Miguel crouched next to her, his face grim. "Botfly. I've seen it before. We need to get it out. Now." The realization hit like a thunderclap. Beneath Daniel's skin, a botfly larva writhed, its presence confirmed by a subtle, sickly wiggling as Clara pressed gently around the lump. Daniel paled. His breath hitched. "You're kidding," he whispered, but the dread in his chest told him otherwise. The group sprang into action, their meager supplies laid out on a tarp, a hunting knife, a bottle of antiseptic, some rope, and a cloth for him to bite down on. There was no anesthesia, no sterile operating room, just the wild and their shaking hands. "Tie me down," Daniel said, his voice trembling but resolute. "I don't trust myself to stay still." The twins secured his arms and legs to a log with rope, the usual bravado placed by tense silence. Clara sterilized the knife with the antiseptic, her hands unsteady as she met Daniel's eyes. "This is gonna hurt like hell," she warned. He nodded, clamping the cloth between his teeth. Miguel held the flashlight steady as Clara made the first cut. Daniel's muffled scream tore through the camp, his body bucking against the restraints. Blood welled up, dark and thick, as the knife sliced into the swollen flesh. The larva squirmed, a pale, grotesque thing, burrowing deeper. "Hold him!" Miguel barked, and the twins pressed down harder, their knuckles white. Clara gritted her teeth, digging the blade deeper, chasing the creature, pus mingled with blood oozing down Daniel's leg as the skin popped open, releasing a fetid stench. The larva writhed, its hooked body resisting as she pinned it with the knife's tip. With a final desperate yank, she pulled it free, a wriggling, inch-long nightmare. Daniel's screams faded to gasps, his chest heaving as sweat soaked through his shirt. The wound bled freely, a ragged mess of torn muscle and skin. Clara doused it with the last of the antiseptic, wrapping it tightly with a torn strip of cloth. "It's out," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You're gonna be okay." But he wasn't. By morning, Daniel's fever spiked. His skin burned at the touch. Delirium set in, his eyes glassy, his words incoherent as he muttered about shadows in the trees. The group hovered around him, helpless as infection spread from the jagged wound. Clara tried to clean it again, but the damage was deep, the jungle's filth too potent. By noon, his breathing grew shallow, then stopped altogether. The explorers stood in stunned silence, the weight of their loss heavier than the humid air. Miguel broke the quiet, his voice low. He fought hard. They buried him there, beneath the roots of a strangler fig, the jungle claiming one of its own.